This is the story of two women who are 200 years old. As knowledge of their secret spreads, their past catches up on them with deadly consequences. The movie opens with a girl named Eleanor writing her biography in her personal diary. She recounts about her past and explains to us that she is forbidden to disclose it to anyone. Hence, in order to express herself, she writes about her life in a piece of paper and then throws it to the wind. But while she is throwing away the pages, we witness an old man picking up one of the pages and read it. This puts her secret in danger, and hence she decides to confront the old man and sit beside him. She assures him that those pages do not contain anything important, and it is just the stories which was made up in her mind. But as it seems, the old man appears to be smart enough to understand that there is some truth in her stories and hence request her to follow him home. The scene shifts to his home where Eleanor and the old man talk with each other, and he brings up an old album containing the photos of himself and his family. We see his brother and sister-in-law, but to our shock, as he turns the pages of the album, we see some of the torn pages from Eleanor's personal diary attached in there. Eleanor understands that her secret has been discovered. Here the old man admits that, during his childhood, the priest used to scare them by reciting the stories of blood-sucking vampires. Eleanor admits her secret, and this is when the old man claims to be ready for what she can deliver. Eleanor doubts that he may not be ready for what's coming, but he assures her that he has seen plenty of things during his lifetime, and now he is ready to move on to the other side. Eleanor decides to free him of this life. We see her thumbnail growing, till it looks pointed enough to pierce through the skin of a human. She cuts into his veins using her nail and sucks his body, dry of blood. We see his skin turn pale, and this is where we are introduced to the ways in which vampires take human lives. The scene shifts to Clara, who works as a stripper in a nightclub. One day while performing, an unknown man walks into the bar and asks for her. To our shock, after getting confronted by the unknown man, Clara smashes a wine bottle on his head and flees the scene. But the man is not ready to let go and chases her through the streets of the city. Clara tries her best to shake him off her trail, but fails to do so and gets caught. He seems to be strong enough to subdue her without much effort. Seeing no other way, Clara takes him to her home, and here we understand that he is from a cult named the Brotherhood and is after Eleanor. In the pretext of cleaning his wounds, she uses a metal wire to strangle him and post that cuts his head off using all her strength. Eleanor arrives shortly and is surprised to discover the corpse of an unknown man lying inside her room. This is where we understand that Clara is Eleanor's mother. Eleanor demands to know why she had brought an unknown man inside their apartment, but Clara responds to her that she had no other choice and the man was much stronger than her. He was there to harm Eleanor, and hence she had to kill him. Knowing fully well that the cops will be visiting their home soon in search of the man, Clara asks Eleanor to pack her belongings so that they can flee the place. They hitch a ride to a coastal town, and upon reaching there, Eleanor reminisces about her memories from the past and sees herself walking with other girls from an orphanage. The mother-daughter duo soon enter a town, and without wasting any time, Clara begins to look out for men so that she can earn money for herself and her daughter. She enters a diner and upon seeing a piano, begins playing a beautiful tune. Her talent charms everyone present at the venue, especially a young boy named Frank, who comes up to her and sits behind her while enjoying the beautiful melody. After she finishes playing, he asks if she was hired to play music in the restaurant, which she denies. He adds that she can earn quite well using her skills, but Eleanor walks away from the place as if trying to isolate herself from the outer world. Clara, on the other hand, was using her beauty to earn a few bucks, but after she was done with one client, a man named Noel suddenly approaches her, but just as they were about to start, he breaks down, which startles her. Seeing this unusual behavior from a man, she inquires about the situation, to which he replies that he had lost his mother very recently. Seizing this opportunity, she requests Noel to allow her to stay at his place so that they can continue their interaction in his home. Being a lonely person, he agrees to her proposal. Upon reuniting with Clara, Eleanor gets to know that she has managed to convince this man named Noel to allow them to stay at his guest house, which is called Byzantium. He welcomes them to his guest house. That night, Eleanor dreamed of the day when she was turned into a vampire. We are shown that it was Clara who took her to a mysterious place, where Eleanor was met by her doppelganger. To our horror, the doppelganger bit her in the neck, which made the nearby waterfall completely red, as if it was blood that was flowing instead of water. The scene shifts to Clara's previous house where two detectives, Darvel and Savella, are seen investigating the decapitated head of the unknown man whom we saw in the beginning of the movie, being killed by Clara. Clara also learns from the newspaper that the cops have investigated the scene and they are still in search of the culprit. That day, while being alone, Eleanor reminisces about her past. We see a flashback where Eleanor was approached by an old man. It was on that day that she learned that her mother was still alive and she owed something to this man. Giving this reason, the wicked man leans on Eleanor and violates her innocence. Being haunted by her past, she breaks down. This is seen by Noel, who assures her that as long as she is in his house, nobody will be able to harm her. To refresh her mind, she visits the seashore and sees a semi-unconscious woman resting on one of the benches. Understanding that this woman will not be able to remember anything said at this point of time, Eleanor recalls her mother's past. And this is where we get to learn that Clara used to work near the same seashore. On a beautiful morning, while she was working, two men approached her. Darvel, who was a kind-hearted soldier, was riding his horse along with his superior, Ruthven. She gave Darvel some food to eat, and in return, he gifted her a pearl. But Ruthven, on the other hand, turned out to be cruel. In the pretext of giving Clara some rare gifts, he took her to a shady place, and the unsuspecting, innocent Clara followed his every command. Post fulfilling his desires, he prepared to leave, and this is when Clara called him out for being a liar. Ruthven, in turn, retaliates by saying that he has now given her the occupation which will feed her. Post a few months, she gives birth to her child, Eleanor, and in order to safeguard her future, she drops her near an orphanage. She also provides a note which states that Clara would be paying for the upbringing of her daughter with gold, and the orphanage should tell the child that her mother has passed away. As expected, Eleanor grew up with the other girls in the orphanage, and this is where we understand why she is having flashbacks after coming to this place. Next morning, while Eleanor was thinking of enrolling herself in a college, she accidentally collides with Frank, and this makes him fall to the ground, thereby injuring his hand. The cut in his hand made him bleed excessively, and the poor boy is forced to somehow carry himself to his home while wrapping his wound with a piece of cloth. Eleanor follows him while carrying his bicycle. Upon reaching his home, he lets the blood-soaked cloth fall into the ground, and his parents take him to the hospital. Eleanor is left alone standing near their home, but instead of leaving the place, she succumbs to her blood thirst, which forces her to drink from the blood-drenched cloth. The scene shifts to Clara, who visits the shady areas of the town, where she is met by a man who likes humiliating women and ruining their lives. She lures the man to an isolated spot near the beach, and in the pretext of getting intimate, takes his life in the broad daylight. Eleanor, on the other hand, pays a visit to Frank, and we see her on the verge of losing control as soon as she sees blood flowing through the medical tubes. But just at this moment, his mother, Gabby, enters the room. She explains to Eleanor that he had been taking anticoagulants as per his treatment for leukemia. Eleanor understands Frank's situation and posts some small talk, requests Gabby to not inform Frank about her visit. On her way out, she senses an old woman who is about to die and hence approaches her. After her consent, Eleanor feeds on her, thereby bringing an end to another life, painlessly. Post that, she enrolls herself in Nordhaven College. While in a class, they are asked to recount the most important stories from their past. When asked about her story, Eleanor recounts the sleepless nights in the orphanage and her mother peeping at her through the skylight. This leads us to believe that she missed her mother very much and at the same time believe that she had passed away. This incites the interest of the Professor Milton. He gives the class a homework to write an essay on the topic, I am, and it must include a true story from the writer's life. Post-attending class, Eleanor and Frank spend their time in the beach reminiscing about their lives, and this is where Frank discloses to her that he is aware of her visit in the hospital. He adds that his mother thinks that they would make a nice couple together. But to his shock, Eleanor replies that their relationship will be fatal for her. She adds that she is keeping a secret, and that secret is to not tell anyone about the dark truth of her life. Frank comforts her, and this is where they almost kiss, but Eleanor hesitates and flees away from there. We're soon shown a flashback into Clara's past, and we get to know that she was Ruthven's favorite means for pleasure. One morning while he was resting on an armchair, Clara lay sick on a table. But out of the blue, a young man wearing a black coat approached the room and requested Clara to remove the curtains to allow the sunlight in. Ruthven, who was still asleep, cursed Clara, but was soon taken aback by the sight of the young man standing right in front of him. Ruthven calls the stranger by his name, Darvel, and expresses his shock to see him alive again. He admits that he had seen him die right in front of his eyes. Darvel does not say much and replies that he has come to give something to his old friend and he will be back at nightfall, because just like Ruthven, he also loves the dark. Curious about the situation, Clara requests Ruthven to shed light on the matter. To her shock, Ruthven reveals that he and Darvel were good friends. But once, while they were on a battle, trying to suppress a rebellion, Darvel got seriously injured and hence acquired fever. They tried every treatment possible, but his situation only became worse. It was at this time that Darvel focused his attention to ancient legends. To be more precise, he was more interested in a certain legend which told about a cave located on an isolated island. The cave was home to the nameless saint, and he could grant eternal life to those who came to him. Darvel kept his search going, and eventually, two unknown men, one of whom was Savella, approached him with a secret map. Upon seeing the map, his face lighted up instantly. Without wasting any time, Darvel and Ruthven decided to embark on a journey to reach the nameless island. Darvel was adamant in curing himself and attaining eternal life. They eventually reached the location and climbed up a rocky mountain to reach the cave. But just before entering it, Darvel requested Ruthven to fetch him some drinking water from the nearby waterfall. He seized this opportunity and entered the cave. But as soon as he entered, a flock of bats escaped from the cave and flew into the sky, and seeing this, Ruthven understood that Darvel has taken his chances. All of a sudden, the water in the waterfall turned blood red as if someone was being drained of blood. Wanting to know what had happened to Darvel, he entered the cave and found his lifeless body lying on a pool of blood. Being a cunning and opportunistic man, he took Darvel's ring and money and went to the shore to call for the boat. Hearing the story, Clara imagines to herself how it would be if she were to gain an immortal life. We are also informed that she herself was suffering from tuberculosis and had little time left in her hands. On that fateful day, Darvel returned to Ruthven after the sunset and offered him a chance at eternal life, and hence gave him the map which would lead him to the nameless isle. Before Darvel left, Ruthven thanked him and returned his ring which he claimed to have taken for safekeeping. But in a shocking twist of events, we see Clara stealing Ruthven's gun from under the table and shooting him in the leg, making him scream in pain. She wastes no time and steals the map and sets off to the mysterious place. She successfully reaches there, and upon entering the cave, we again see the stream of water turn red, symbolizing the fact that she also has gained an eternal life. Post that, she is approached by the Brotherhood, which is a group of powerful vampires. They berate Clara for stealing the map, as the Brotherhood was a group of men and there was no place for a woman of her standards. Back at present, we see Eleanor knocking the door of Frank's house and handing him an essay containing her life story. Frank starts reading it, but as soon as he comes across the unbelievable facts written in the essay, he decides to ask Eleanor for clarification. He visits her home, which is the Byzantium guest house. There he is met with Clara, who tells him that Eleanor is not at home and tries to shake him off. Fearing that Eleanor may have told her secret to the boy, Clara confronts her and asks her about Frank. Not wanting to create any trouble, Eleanor lies to her that she has told him about her upbringing in the orphanage. After saying this, she leaves her home to meet Frank, and there, he expresses his disappointment, thinking that she had lied while writing the essay. She defends herself by saying that she has used each and every word truthfully, and she has given him her secret. Back at the college, Frank gives Eleanor's essay to Professor Milton and requests him to read, as he will find the story interesting. Milton in turn shares the story with Principal Morag, and she too is amazed by Eleanor's writing skills, but the contents in her story shakes her to the core. In her story, Eleanor describes her mother as a succreant, which translates to a blood-sucking vampire. This leads them to believe that Eleanor describes her mother as an evil person and she may be in need for help. Being concerned about Eleanor, Professor Milton visits her home and is confronted by Noel, who greets him. Milton expresses his wish to meet with Clara, and when told that she is not at home, he replies that in the event that Clara does not visit this college within the next 24 hours, he will be forced to contact Child Services and the police. To get more clarity about her story, Principal Morag arranges a meeting with Eleanor. The principal expresses her doubts about the truthfulness in her story, and in a subtle but threatening manner, Eleanor replies that it is only with the passage of time that the truthfulness of her story will be proved. She manages to psychologically dominate Morag by making her imagine the future where after 30 or 40 years, she would be old enough to sit on a wheelchair, and Eleanor may visit her home and put her out of her misery by sucking all the blood from her body. To vent her frustration, Eleanor plays the piano, and there she is approached again by Frank. She expresses her disappointment and anger because he had betrayed her trust and disclosed her secret to everyone. To make it up to her, Frank invites her to his birthday, and Eleanor, although angry at him, accepts his invitation. We realize that she has fallen in love with him, and hence in an attempt to give him something very special, she decides to gift him the map to the nameless isle. Back at the college, Clara visits Milton and he informs her about the story written by Eleanor. Clara understands that her secret is out and hence decides to take matters into her own hands. She approaches him and slowly but firmly recounts her story. She reveals to him that after becoming a vampire, she had kept a close eye on Eleanor. But one day she saw her being attacked by Ruthven. He had violated her innocence as a means to take revenge against Clara for stealing the map. Clara could not bear to see this and hence had killed Ruthven right there in front of her daughter. We also get to know that he was suffering from syphilis and hence must have infected Eleanor during the deed. Seeing no other way, Clara took her daughter to the nameless isle, and there, she too faced the nameless saint who takes the form of the visitors. But this also had its own risks. As per the rules of the Brotherhood, no woman is allowed to create new vampires. Post saying this, she kills Milton and leaves his corpse on a table. That day, Eleanor visits Frank's home, and we get to learn that without consent, vampires cannot enter the homes of human beings. Frank invites her in, and they enjoy each other's company. One thing leads to the other, and the two end up kissing for the first time in their lives. In a moment of passion and excitement, Eleanor accidentally pierces Frank's skin using her thumbnail and soon understands her fault. She apologizes and flees his home, but Frank catches up to her. He requests her to take him to the place where he can gain an eternal life. She denies at first, as Frank would have to leave his family. He agrees to sacrifice his present life, which is plagued by leukemia, and makes up his mind to spend the rest of his life with Eleanor. Hearing this, she kisses him again and asks him to wait for her return. She returns to Byzantium and starts packing her things. Clara and Noelle try to stop her, but she pushes Clara out of her way and proceeds to leave. Clara stops her lift midway, and while trying to mitigate the situation, Noelle accidentally falls down, leading to his demise. Seizing this opportunity, and the fact that Eleanor is trapped inside the lift, she leaves for Frank's house, as he too needs to be killed to protect their secret. Seeing this, Eleanor begs her mother not to go, but her words fall to deaf ears. On the other hand, Principal Morag discovers the lifeless body of Milton. She calls the cops, and we see Darvel and Savella accompanied by Morag, setting off to find Eleanor. Clara reaches Frank's home, but he denies her entry. But when she calls him outside, Frank steps out to talk to her. She grabs him by the throat, and at this critical point of time, Eleanor manages to retrieve the phone from Noelle's corpse lying above her. She calls Frank, but it is too late as Clara already has him in her grasp. But just at this moment, Darvel and Savella arrive at Byzantium and free Eleanor. Clara hears their voice via the speaker and immediately understands the grave danger that her daughter has fallen into. Sparing Frank's life, she sprints towards her home. Darvel, Savella, Morag and Eleanor board a car, and we see Eleanor in handcuffs. But Clara jumps on their car in the nick of time and tries to stop them from harming her child. Savella, who was driving the car, made the car drift, making Clara fall to the ground. Willing to put an end to her life, he pressed on the gas and sped towards Clara, but luckily, she moved out of the way at the last second. Seeing all of this happen right in front of her eyes, Morag screamed to be let out of the vehicle. Annoyed by her persistent screams, Savella broke her neck and took her life in front of Eleanor. Post that, he went to search and hunt for Clara. Eleanor pleaded to Darvel to stop him and to save her mother. She showed him the pearl which he had gifted Clara when she was young and told him that in her stories, he was a nice and gentle man. She ambushed him from behind and, using her skills, gave a good fight to Savella. She soon took the upper hand and managed to strangle Savella using a chain. Just when it seemed that she had won, Darvel intervened. Being faced with the might of two men, Clara stood no chance and was soon subdued. Darvel brought out a sword from the back of the car, which originated from a place called Byzantium. Savella handed over the sword to Darvel and asked him to finish the job. Darvel prepared to end her life with one clean strike of the sword. Clara, in her dying wish, begged them to at least let her daughter go. Savella held her head firmly for Darvel to strike, but as soon as he swung his sword, we see Savella's head tumbling down the nearby stairs, meaning that he had spared Clara's life and chose to do the right thing. Clara looked at him with appreciation in her eyes, and after being freed, immediately went to hug her daughter. And this is how the nightmare ended. Post this, we see Clara letting go of her daughter after handing her some money. Eleanor, although shocked, understands that it is time for her to move on with her own life. Darvel appreciates Clara for being helpful to the oppressed and the poor and hunting down the people who misuse their power. Now, they have made an enemy out of the Brotherhood and hence decide to stick together and remain hidden from the rest of the world. In the ending scenes of the movie, we see Eleanor taking Frank on a boat to the nameless island, and soon, we see the waterfall near the cave turn red, signifying that Frank has achieved an immortal life. If you like this recap, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Please also check out other videos in the channel.